Well, good. Oh, it is afternoon. Good afternoon, Lydia.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining me today as we're going to talk about, sometimes they call us crazy for talking about forbearance this much, but
Yep.
hey, it's real and it's definitely impacting our business and real estate and borrowers right
Yep.
now. So,
Exactly. And people don't know. They don't know what it is. They don't know that they're in them. They don't know what they got into. And so we want to try to make it so that everybody understands what they're getting themselves into or have
exactly.
gotten themselves into.
Exactly. And the reason we keep talking about forbearance is a program that was created to help borrowers stay in their homes. This is not
Right.
the foreclosure moratoriums, it's not the, that stuff. This is all about keeping borrowers who own their homes in their homes. And
Right.
so we're
Right.
watching these numbers, we're watching what's going on. So I'm just going to kind of go over a little, a few of the things. This week, the percentage of borrowers in forbearance stayed flat, 5.38%, or about 2.7 million borrowers. This number, if we really look at it, has not changed that much in about 3 months.
Right.
It's, who in stages has changed, but, kind of it's really been a little flat. And
Right.
Mike Fred and Tony, who's the senior vice president and chief economist for the MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association, said while forbearance requests dropped slightly, the rate of exits from forbearance was at their slowest pace since MBA began tracking the exit data last summer. And, he's talking about where there's still a lot of anxiety out there. There's still a lot of people who are struggling out there. So that's why
Yes.
he's kind of saying, you know what, a lot of the people that have been affected negatively are still the ones that are negatively affected, where we
Right.
have like 85% of working people stayed. They still have their
Right.
jobs to do, but that 15% of people, they're getting beat up. And,
Right.
when we look at it, so we also are looking at the number of exits from the forbearance plan is slowing. Where we can look at so Black Knight Data Services, they believe that in January and February, we're going to have a total of 860,000 exits. We saw more in December alone exit. So
Yeah.
it's, when we're starting to see it's going to be a slower rate. And even when we start looking at the stages, so when people get into their, what are these new forbearance plans? What do the stages look like?
Right.
So the initial stage did decrease slightly. It's at a little over 18%. Extensions remain flat, and that's just over, it's 79.3%. And reentries did actually increase a little bit, and it's a little over 2.5%. So it's the vast majority are people who are on extension. And now we have right now forbearance, you can get into a plan through the end of February if you have an FHA or VA loan. FHFA backed mortgages, it's through the end of March, but it is part of the latest stimulus package proposal to extend that through the end of September as well.
Right.
When we start looking at, okay, now who's exiting, what kind of situation are they in? There are kind of two numbers that I really like to look at. It doesn't encompass everybody, but 44.2% of the borrowers, when they exit their plan, they're current. Whether they got caught up or stayed current, that includes both. And that actually dropped from 44.4 last week. The number we want to watch for is 13.4%. That stayed flat week over week, and that is the borrowers who are exited forbearance with no loss mitigation plan in place. These are the people that need help. So, if you think about it, if all that 2.7 million were to exit their forbearance plan now, that's about 362,000 borrowers that would have no plan in place. So that's going to be a group that, definitely as real estate professionals, we need to be helping them, guiding them through their options.
Yep.
And that kind of leads me to, what Lydia and I were just talking about this is kind of a big deal for people within the real estate industry, is changes within the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, also known as the CFPB. They oversee all title companies, mortgage lenders, and they enforce RESPA. They're big, they're very powerful organization. Now, when it was created in the Dodd-Frank Act in 2010, it was created to be, kind of really heavily regulate people within, financial institutions within real estate, or within, people for dealing with borrowers. For our purposes within real estate, it's going to be lenders and title. So
Right.
when it started, it was Richard Cordray was very, very intense. He was all over it. There was a lot of fines. There were a lot of things happening. He was very, very active. Now, under the Trump administration, it did get scaled back quite a bit. And a lot of people in our industry liked having, kind of a less intense watchdog over our shoulder.
Right.
Now, with under the Biden administration, they are talking about it being more similar to how it looked under the Obama administration. And that is with much more heavy regulations from the CFPB. And why I'm talking about this, just full circle, they're kind of coming in, and the new acting director he's basically hitting the ground running. He made these announcements that is saying, so they are immediately implementing focus on two things. And one of them, I'm going to look at my notes real quick, and he was basically saying that it's going to be protecting consumers facing financial hardship due to COVID. Yep. And the other one is racial equity. So those are the two big focuses. Now, for our purposes today, we talk about forbearance. It's part of that, protections for COVID.
Yep.
Now, the couple bullet points that it's really going after is saying mortgage servicers gave consumers incomplete or inaccurate information regarding CARES Act forbearances, failed to process forbearance requests, and collected assessed late fees despite having approved forbearances. So they're really going to be all over the structure of forbearance, what that looks like, how it's working out for the borrowers, how it's working for the servicers, and they're coming after the servicers. That is going to happen. And, Lydia and I, we've attended several Freddie Mac webinars. And I mean, Lydia, what is the biggest kind of blaring comment that you get at the end of every one of these?
So everyone that we have been involved with, both Freddie and Fannie, they always reiterate, please tell you title people, real estate agents, lenders need to educate your clients on what a forbearance is, how they work, how to do the exit strategies. And I will tell you, probably 90 or 95% of people within our own industry don't even understand them like you and I do. But we've been doing this for a long time, and you do so much research on forbearances and what does that actually mean. And I remember way back a year ago, one of my lenders from a bank actually said to me, do not let any of your customer or your clients call their bank or their servicing company and say anything about what's a forbearance, because back then in the very, very, very beginning, they were literally putting people on forbearance that were just calling up asking about them. They weren't even, and there was like no paperwork involved. It was just all, it was a wild,
it was a mess.
It was a wild west of the forbearances.
Yes, so absolutely.
And they did say that. Freddie and Fannie both said that they let the servicers have, free reign in the beginning. And then when they discovered that a lot of them were not doing proper paperwork and educating their customers, that they had to kind of come in. And some of them have changed. They were changing around April, May timeframe, and there was some updates on those things. And we had discussed all that way back in the beginning. But that's the concern that I have as a real estate agent is I even had like I told you last week, my friend who was concerned about her job situation, and she called her bank and said, oh yeah, you qualify for a forbearance. For 3 months, you can do a forbearance. Well, then she called me for advice and said, I'll do the forbearance February, March, and April, and then I'll refi in May. And I go, you can't refi in May because there's rules about refinancing. And a lot of lenders are starting to see this when they start doing the paperwork on these people. They're starting to see that they were in a forbearance and they haven't had those 3 consecutive payments. And that's what you have to be able to refinance. So as a real estate agent, we have fiduciary responsibilities, and everybody thinks, oh, we're just opening doors and we're just buying and selling. No, we have to look at the whole picture, and people don't realize that because I just met, I do a lot of probate work, and I met with a woman on Monday night who lives around the corner from me, who lost her husband, and it's a second marriage, so her house is not in a trust, so it has to go through a probate, and she has to sell it. So I said to her when we sat down, I said, "So what are you going to do once selling the house isn't going to be an issue? We don't have a lot of inventory right now. You and I looked up there's 4,739 active listings in all of Maricopa County.
No, that's all of Armless. That's
That's all
everything.
of Armless. That's everything. That's single family, mobile, condos, townhomes, modulars. That's everything that we have. 4,700. That's like nothing.
Nothing.
And that's why people are getting 75 offers for once they put them on the market. And of course, you and I know that the lower the price, the more people you're going to get for contracts, because you're fighting with the people that are downsizing, you're fighting with the first time home buyers. Those 2 and 3 bedroom $200,000 homes are going for $50,000 more than what they should, because there just isn't enough inventory.
Sight unseen and all
Sight
that
unseen,
stuff. Yeah.
people taking off. They're removing the appraisal contingency. They're removing the
Inspection contingency.
they're paying all the transfer fees. I mean, you see it too. I know it at your office with the titles, but that's the thing. I mean, selling the home for her is not going to be an issue. We're going to probably get a multiple offer situation. But I said to her, I go, "What are you going to do to buy your house?" And she said, "Well, I could live with my parents for a month or two." And I go, "It's going to probably take more than a month or two to find a house that you're going to like." And I mean, with the amount of inventory we have, I mean, I said to her, I go, "Let's go out and look for a house first, because we could always throw hers on the market and probably do a simultaneous close once we find a house for her." So real estate agents are more than, I mean, we have a fiduciary for people. I mean, people don't realize it's not just opening a door and writing up a contract. It's everything. And if you're a good agent, you will look. There's been a couple of agents, I was told a couple days ago, there's been quite a few people that have sold someone's house and now they can't find a house to buy because they wanted to sell their house first. And really, the agent should have educated them and said, "Okay, let's go look for a house first, because we'll be able to sell your house." Or if they can't qualify for both homes, they can do a bridge loan. There's all kinds of other things you can do to get
Absolutely.
your clients, and it's the same with forbearances. You need to educate yourself to know what are your options, because the last thing we want is for someone to be homeless or
Absolutely.
or lose the equity of their home. I mean,
Right.
with you know what I'm saying? With these forbearances, you've got third party people, taking, I like, I hope they're not taking advantage, but they're not giving them the full scoop. They'll say, "I'll buy your house for this much." And these people don't know what their house is worth. So they think it's a little bit more than what they bought it for. And they think,
We
"Oh, I'm
saw that.
super excited." But they don't realize that their house has gone up even
Way more.
higher,
I mean,
way more.
we talked about one where it was, we saw the agreement for sale, 170,000, and I was like, "What a house is 170,000 in Mesa?" Right? So I looked it up, and the Zestimate, I just went to Zillow. The Zestimate was 230. And
Yeah,
that sounds a whole lot more likely for a single family in that part of Mesa than
yeah,
170. And does that mean that seller is leaving $60,000 on the table?
yes, yeah.
It's a lot of
That's exactly
money.
what that means. Yeah, it is. And people don't realize that. And, you know, we are in uncertain times right now. We don't know where the economy is going. They're talking about inflation. And so we need to be really smart about how we do things. And we need to, don't panic sell or don't panic. Don't ever make a decision in a panic situation. You
Absolutely.
have to step, and that's hard to do. I've been
Very.
there, so I understand. You have to step back, take a breath, and talk to someone and say, "Okay, what are my options?" You may only have two options. You may only have one option. But the earlier you do it, the more options you'll have. And I
For
always love
sure.
to give people more than none, because once you only have one option and that's to sell it and that's it, you know,
Then what? Now that defeats the purpose of keeping people in their houses.
absolutely, absolutely. So you and I both know that this is a crazy time right now, and just don't be taken by advantage of, and talk to, you know, educate yourself and talk to someone and find out what exactly is my house worth and what are exactly are my options. You know, sometimes just you know, like I told my friend who was looking to do the forbearance, I go, so after that 3 months, they said you'll have to pay your house payment plus a little more to make up for the difference. I go, you can't even make your $1,700 house payment now. What makes you think you're going to be able to make your $2,000 house payment in 3 months from now?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you have to think, you know, logically. So some suggestions I gave her was, why don't you get a renter, a short-term renter, 3 to 6 month person to come in. They can take the 2 bedrooms that you're not using in the bathroom, and you can charge a pretty decent amount, and it will help both parties. So
Absolutely.
there's other ways to do things that can help your situation without panicking. So that's probably my biggest advice to people is, let's sit down, let's see what all your options are, and don't panic.
Yes. Yes. Don't panic. I love this.
Don't panic.
And it's, I mean, absolutely. That's where we are. And don't panic, Sel. Talk to somebody,
Yep.
do some homework. So yeah.
Yep. And Sarah and I are always here to talk to you. And I mean, I try not to push people into something that I know isn't going to be good for them. So even if you want to talk to us and you don't sell your house, that's okay. We want to give you all of your options right up front so that
Absolutely.
you can make an informed decision.
Absolutely. That's what we want. That's our
Yep.
ultimate goal. So yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Lydia. This was great. Good conversation. And I look forward to talking to you again about this next week.
I will see you next week. Thanks. Take care.
Bye.